Okay, we are grading lesson 7, exit ticket and problem set today. So on the exit ticket, you had to read their claims and write an explanation of who is correct. And it said use a number line to support your answer. So on this one, Brett would be correct, so +1 if you put that. And then using the number line, you should have had a number line similar to this, where you had -3 graphed, -2.5 graphed, 2.5, and 3 graphed. And then to use your explanation, Brett said that 3 is greater than 2.5, and we can say 3 is greater because it is farthest to the right. Or you could have said 2.5 is less because it is farther to the left. And then I also explained likewise, -2.5 is greater than -3 because it is farther to the right than -3. Again, you could have said the opposite about -3 is smaller because it's farther to the left. So if you did some type of explanation that talked about the location of 3 and 2.5 and -3 and 2.5, go ahead and give yourself a point for that one. All right, on the back, we're just going to give ourselves points for these here. You should have a separate sheet of paper with your number lines on them to help you get these correct. I will be looking at those when you turn them in, but our points here will just come from the table. It'll just make it simpler since we're not all together. So for these two right here, ordered from least to greatest, obviously -1/2 and 1/4. Anytime you have a negative number and a positive number, it should be pretty easy to order because you know that negatives have to be to the left of 0 and 1/4 has to be to the right of 0, or positive numbers have to be to the right of 0. So therefore, you automatically know which one's further left and which one's further right. Then their opposites would be -1/4 and 1/2, and it doesn't matter what order those are in. If you had them switched, that's fine, +1. And then the order of those, again, you have a negative number and a positive number. The negative number is always going to be further to the left because it's left of 0. The positive number is always going to be furthest to the right and be greater because it's to the right of 0. For this one, same thing, -10 and 2. Their opposites are 10 and -2. Again, this order doesn't matter because you were just listing them. And then least to greatest is -2 to 10, +1. Then for 0 and 3.5, we have 0 and then 3.5. Again, it should have been a pretty easy one to think about because zeros are turning point and all positive numbers are to the right of 0, so that would make 0 be to the left. Then the opposite of 0 is just 0. We have -3.5. Then -3.5 would be farthest to the left, so it's least, and there's 0. Now we get into little trickier ones where they're both negative, so automatically they're both to the left of 0, but which one's farthest to the left? -5.6. It's going to be closer to -6 than to -5, and then -5 would be further to the right. Their opposites are going to be the positive versions, and then they're going to be in the opposite order. 5 is going to be farther left than 5.6. Hopefully you recognize that 5.6 is almost 5.5 since 5.5 is a half. On this one, we have 24 is farther to the left, and then 24.5, halfway between 24 and 25. Their opposites are the negative version of those two numbers, 24, -24 and -24.5. And then -24.5 is further to the left, so it is less than -24. -100 and -99.9 are super close to each other, but -100 is further to the right, further to the left, so it is less. -99.9 is just slightly more to the right. Their opposite versions are the positive versions of those numbers, +1. And then 99.9 is slightly to the left of 100, which is further to the right. -0.5 and -0.05. Again, remember that this is 5/10, so that is a half. Remember that this is 5/100, so that's like having 5 pennies. This is like almost having none. So this one is further to the left And we can kind of see that one down here in this number line. I want to show that. Negative 0.05 is really close to 0. If you only owe somebody 5 cents, it's like almost owing them nothing. This one also not that big of a deal, but it's owing them 50 cents or half of a dollar. So it's a little bit further to the left. The opposites are the positive versions, 0.5 and 0.05. And then the least on this one would be having 5 cents versus having 50 cents. Again, you have to understand this is 5/100ths, almost none. This is 5/10ths, half. Negative 0.7 and 0. Negative 0 is going to be to the left of 0, so it is least or less than 0. Positive versions of them for the opposites, and then 0 is going to be to the left of positive 0.7 because it's positive. It's going to be to the right of 0. Again, this one's super close. If I have $100.02 versus $100.04, but having $100.02 is a little less than having $100.04. Their opposites are going to be the negative versions of those numbers. And then negative 100.04 would be less or further to the left, just slightly, of negative 100.02. Then for number 2 here, each row, what pattern do you notice between the second and the fourth rows? Why is this so? And you needed to say something about the fact that they are in opposite order. And then why is this so? Something along the lines of because the columns are opposite numbers, which make them be in opposite order. I know this one's hard to kind of explain why this is so. So +1, if you did, they are in opposite order, or they are in reverse order, something of that nature. And then if you tried to explain something here, go ahead and give yourself a point. So 2 points for this one right here. So far we have 9 groups of 3 points. So that would be 27 points, 28, 29. And then on the exit ticket, we had 2 more, 30, 31. So please put how many you got correct out of 31. If you got between 25 and 31, that's an M. If you got between 24 and 17, that's a P, and if you got 16 or less, that's an E. If you got an E, you might want to be looking at your number lines and be thinking about if you need to put more benchmarks in there, or you might want to come see me during class time to kind of check in to see what we can do to have some better accuracy there.